Well, now, oh, good afternoon. And now instead of stroking hobo shoestrings ego and putting money in his pocket, oh, by the way, Anonymous just threatened me. Oh, and they're so anonymous. Uh, he's rallied his troops. Anonymous, by the way, people are telling me what you're all, will delete their comments too. But people have already told me what you're really like. So, I'm not a beggar. I'm not a moocher. People just give me money because it's pretty obvious that I need more money than my income. I have disability and I have a little oil and gas revenue. And lately, the oil and gas revenue has been pretty shitty. So, my point is that a few minutes ago, an African albino, I should say Negro albino, possibly from Africa, started my whole head thinking about a problem we've had in science that actually only 3 of us at the doctoral level have ever commented on. Dr. Wolf, 1969, Dr. Creel, C-R-E-E-L, in 1981, and then me for the first time in about, I think, 1995, about, I know this goes against my into Africa thing, but it's also part of it. It's something that has to be considered in evaluating that science. Now, the young man who came up to me, I said thank you and probably gave him a God bless you, although I'm reluctant lately because of the war issues of making any religious remarks. He's very nicely dressed and appropriately. He had on it's cool weather. He had on a black, nice clothes, nice car, clearly not broke. He didn't speak, he didn't respond though, perhaps because English isn't his primary language. I don't know how to really put this. Let me first state by actually in America amongst the Siberian migrants, the Zuni, Z-U-N-I, Siberian migrants known as Zunis or Indians, have the highest rate of albinism, but they keep their albinos hidden. They have as of 1969, Dr. Wolf, the numbers may have changed tremendously because often people who carry that genetics have trouble reproducing, especially if they're exposed to sunlight or racism. But anyway, so I know this is going to go too long. And in Africa, the highest rate of albinism is in the area of Harare, Zimbabwe. And it's 1 in 25. That's actually, the Zunis have 1 in 250. That's a very high rate of albinism. The albinism may have sprung up from crossing the Siberian land bridge as they came into the Americas. Because actually, when you go north, where my people originated from, really, and where the first humans appear to have originated from. Sorry, I can't lift my arm properly there. Albinism may pop up, kind of just like in a polar bear kind of thing, because of the need for vitamin D and stuff. Would be a natural mutation that wouldn't necessarily go away. because there are some benefits to it, unless you live in Harare, Zimbabwe, or anywhere in Africa where the housing, the other things are not so good. Usually their albino children die fairly quickly from a combination of, some kind of animist. Please, I know I use words that the homo crowd ain't going to understand. They're, even though they feign being Christians or whatever, most Africans still to this day, or they even fake being Muslims, they are what is known in religion as animists. They think that everything has a spirit, and they worship the spirit of the wind, the spirit of the tree, the spirit of the rock, the blah 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 blah. It's a real complicated, weird, magical form of thinking. But a lot of the African albinos, they get out in the sun too much, they go blind, because I'm talking about, and actually he had normal pigmentation in the eyes towards the hazel brown, not green or blue, but he had pigment. But extreme albinism is when the eyes appear to be pink, which is really just blood in the the color of the. And he just kind of gave off a trippy vibe. He briefly made eye contact as he showed some. He may have been brought here from Africa by Christian missionaries or something to preserve his life, because over there, just by nature and out in the African environment, lions and tigers and stuff like that, being light colored is selected out by Darwinian theory and nature and natural selection. And theirs just don't live. I don't think they take good care of them. Some of the ones some pictures I've seen of the Zimbabwean albinos they appear to be getting the belly swelling of malnourishment. They may not be giving them enough food, but I've read reports that they also have a tendency to blister up in the sun, overexposure, trying to play with other young children. Skin sloughs off, they get an infection, they're dead. So Dr. Creel commented in 81 about I already was aware of but what we find in the, because this is my point, is that one can never be absolutely sure. I say that grudgingly because I sometimes take a very authoritarian tone when I'm presenting my results and the findings in biomedical research, because depending upon pigmentation, and we have, for purely kind of racial preference and aesthetic preferences, have been using albino to hypopigmented. In humans, I would be called hypopigmented based on the African theory that Africans are normally pigmented. That's up for debate right now. I'm restarting the Into Africa thing here, whether you like it or not, hobo on a shoestring, because it's really critical. This is what I published. The definition of publication is to speak aloud in public. I've done this on radio, done it on television. I've talked about the fact that for about a century, because I've read the entire National Library of Medicine, for about a century, we used only, hypopigmented and albino animals. There's only a few studies that don't use them. Most of you ever notice that lab rats are white? There may be some legitimate reasons for them being white just for observational purposes, like something that's just below, like a skin tumor that's on a furred animal that's beginning to pop up would be probably more visible on a white rat, a hypopigmented rat, albino rat, and stuff. I only remember one, and that was actually in glaucoma study. They had found a group of no, they actually had used a group of normal pigmented, read my lips, normo pigmented beagles that had glaucoma that was not genetic, that primary open angle glaucoma. So the thing is that which Dr. Creel focused on and got him really, I really almost found nothing written by him after that. It must have killed his career to point out, what I was already finding out is that that hypopigmented to albino animals was already known in albino, but we do tend to have, of course, that defect in the optical chiasm. That's where the nerve comes together. Optical chiasm, CHIASM. Optical chiasm, there are defects. Are they really a defect, or are they just a non-mutated downward? That's a matter of scientific opinion. So what we find in hypopigmented to albino animals is optical chiasm defects and defects in fatty metabolism, but some of those defects are related to the production of melanin, which we don't necessarily need. We don't necessarily need if we're like the hairs on a polar bear have no pigment in them because they act as a fiber optic. They're clear. They conduct the light all the way down to the polar bear's skin to provide vitamin D when he isn't getting enough vitamin D from eating the guts of seals. Pretty sure it'd be plenty in the liver. Can't remember other parts, but God's creation is exceedingly complex. And what makes me want to take time here and lose audience and audience view time is because I want to talk about the things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about things. The definition of an intellectual is somebody who cannot make small talk for more than 5 minutes. You don't have to have a lot of data or a lot of intelligence to be an intellectual. But if you're a shit-slinging, Jerry Springer, want to get into the hobo fight, you're not the daddy thing that, hobo's doing right now and stuff, that indicates you're not an intellectual. An intellectual, the very definition of an intellectual is someone who cannot make small talk for more than 5 minutes before going kind of ballistic. Well, not ballistic, but just they'll begin talking about something that you have no interest in, and we will just kind of be ignorant of the fact that you're not interested in what interests us. Complicated matters. And I've never mastered the art of small talk beyond 5 minutes. I can't really maintain or feign interest in the glitter on your face or the way you got your nails done, or like the small talk of women. Oh gosh, that's just like migraine deluxe. And Mr. Pink Hair left. I see you at least refresh the pink. So these outcomes that we have in clinical trials is totally dependent upon something that we don't fully understand because of all these racial prejudices, both towards blacks and towards whites. I mean, I haven't found sufficient evidence to really help me flesh out, because it was, because the first data that said that glaucoma was mostly found in black females, and so on. And I'm going like, what? Why would somebody that didn't have any fatty metabolism? Because this is a fatty metabolism part of the human chemistry, particularly fatty acids becoming arachidonic acids, yada, yada, blah, blah. I really don't like simple-minded people. Can't get along well with people who cannot hold in their head complex thoughts. Many of you think I'm an idiot because I come on here unscripted, and compared to my old television programs here where I was spot on, nonstop, totally coherent, didn't miss a beat or word, perfect composition for usually 30 to 37 minutes. They would lose track of time. They wouldn't give me the signal to wrap it up. And I would just completely ignore the timer clock. And I got on a roll, and so would they. They were so fascinated by the stuff that I was saying. So this is actually one of the biggest problems is in biomedical research, is that we don't really know. And so much of the research in the past has turned out to be completely bogus. See, it's so easy to read the National Library of Medicine, because once you begin your investigations, you'll find out that the majority of research can be absolutely ignored, because there's not a single benefit worth the risk of using garlic, which is a COX-1, antiprostanoid, COX-1 inhibitor, or COX-2 inhibitors, or certain other drugs. Actually, the what we call aspirin-like drugs constitutes the majority of pharmacological research for 4,000 years. And all the millions of papers can be just thrown out, because number one, they almost uniformly oxidize, interfere with the exact molecule, arachidinol-ethanolamide, or and enzymatic functions, liver, even though it's from the arachidinol-ethanolamide comes from the lipoxygenase, not the cyclooxygenase pathways. There are only two pathways in the liver there and they use COX-1 and 2 inhibitors, and yet it's really just kind of the nature of, I don't really even fully understand how it's getting the reactions that they get, because there's so many drugs involved. I can't give you a general conclusive statement on all these just huge variety of COX-1 and COX-2 inhibiting molecules. I mean, there's like thousands of them that they've come up with, and they patent every year. The chemical engineers can generate molecules faster than we can research them. So please bear in mind that there may be some benefits in certain locations to having, dark skin naturally, but I have dark skin naturally. Actually, and it's got to tell you, I recently just commented in Facebook here because the number one buyer of homes in this region are Indians. I admire the Hindi genius and intellect, Ramanujan, Chandrasekhar, awesome. They produce awesome geniuses, unlike Africa, which has never won any Nobel Prize in science. No black African has ever won a Nobel Prize in science. But they are the most skin color conscious people on this planet. Just last night, I noticed that the Hindi woman in there, she has a husband about the same height as her, and he's very slender and athletic, very handsome man. She's a lovely woman. But I noticed that in the wee hours this morning when he leaves her alone, because this is an area where she doesn't have to worry about uh, tweakers in the wee hours too much, really, only during ice. And I noticed when I was checking out, because I was using my, she knows, and she began kind of doing that thing that she wears, the plays with her ponytail and is curling it, and she's kind of trying to. Actually, Hindi women are very. Once my skin gets light colored like this and stuff, they are very attracted to a man. Actually, when it's even darker, because they're used to the men, even the men that they married when they were the color of wheat. That's what the word they use. And their husband was the color of wheat. They'll get darker here in the Texas sun and stuff like that. But they still love the combination of white hair, dark skin with blue eyes. I've had Hindi women just fall in love with me. Please, I can read women. And I know here comes the hobo crowd. They're going to be, I really don't care. You people actually think that your opinion means anything to fucking me, you know? You really do. See, that's where you overvalue yourself. You have delusions of grandiosity or some shit like that. I may go 25 minutes on this. But as I pointed out, and they have not deleted it, they may be, I'm not going to, in the Hindi culture in India, I don't think any Dravidians, that's the black Indians, have ever been able to break out of their caste and, like really move up in business and stuff like that. They're such a caste-based and skin color-based race. So, and they're over here bitching about Asian hate shit. You're so amusing. The most racist people in America, they go around calling us demelanated and stuff like that. No, I am actually normally pigmented, because you're going to find, maybe after I'm dead, that the first humans on this planet came from the area of and to the west of the Caucasus Mountains. The first humans were white, and here's Bruno. I'll read it in a second, Bruno. In scientific research, we were choosing animals. They were choosing, not me. I've only used normal pigmented Texas brown rats and a few other types of animals. Mostly Texas brown rats. They're monsters. They're 1 kilogram, 24 inches long. Easier to cut up, easier to necropsy. So, like I was saying, the most racist people in this America are black. It's rapidly becoming, in this area, the Hindis are going to be the most, but they will show deference to me because of skin color and eye color. But I'm still, in the back of my mind, one of the things that a fragment of the back of my mind works on all the time is what would be the outcome of that study if we had used what we call normal pigmented test subjects. Because for so long they used animals that were really not suitable because white and albino animals are rare, really. If you're going to do a proper real study, you need to have albino, normal, or I should say normal pigmented within a color range there, or standard, and albino of both types, hair skin eyes, to really truly see the effects on a human being, because all of us are biochemically individual. And unfortunately, now I'm seeing a lot of people, they're becoming genetically identical. Human population has grown so much that I can run into, just in the Austin area, I can run into like 50 Hispanic guys that are exactly identical. And like some of the descendants of Genghis Khan, I can run into 100 guys that are exact same height, weight, everything identical. I'm I don't look particularly unique. I look like actually at one point in my life when I finally was really like going bald and stuff like that, people would shout out, I'm finished with this, Otto, Hans, Fritz, thinking that I was their friend from Germany that they had run into, being a tourist in Portland, Maine or something, or in New York City, or because I looked exactly like their friend. I haven't always looked like this. I've kind of mutated during my life. When I was young, hobo shoestring, I always thought I was plain looking. And to tell you the truth, I can tell that you've been butt ugly your whole fucking life. I was actually a very handsome young man. I had never had any trouble getting any women because I was famous. I was very attractive, obviously. I mean, even the gay men had, were. So, something for you to think about is what I talked about is pigmentation and how it affects our medicinal and biomedical research, because a person's pigmentation genetics and animal test subjects can have a tremendous influence that has not. This is my conclusion. I don't think I'll offer any conjecture. My conclusion is that we still need to really examine and re-examine and continue to follow up on the effects on optical chiasm and fatty metabolism, especially in regards to all previous studies. That's it for now, and this is going to be just titled The Albino.